Yes, we have finally made it to video number 5 of number 5 about the new Sennheiser HD500 series. I covered all of them by now, the 559, 69, 79 and 999, all in detail. So this is kind of to be a comparison of all of these and the kind of summary. But of course, if you are interested in one of the specific ones, please do me the favor, check each single review, because I won't go into all the things here. This is kind of just to compare them and go into all of these differences instead of everything that is here, because otherwise I would just kind of put 4 reviews in one together, which is not the plan here. So I would say let's start off, and I would just go through the same categories that I usually do, and starting off with the content. In terms of content, where you get the most, that is the 569, because there you get what is the same thing that you get on all of them, if I'm not mistaken, the 3 meter long cable with the 1/4 inch jack. Along though, what you get there is this 1.3 meter long cable with the remote control, which is not this one actually, by the way. This one you also get on the 599. On the 559 there's nothing about, just this 1/4 inch cable, so here you get the least. Also you get an adapter on the 569, 599 and 579 if you want to use it with 3.5 millimeter. So I would say just in terms of content you get the most out of there here. But it's absolutely fine as well on the 599. On the 579, you miss out on the 3.5 millimeter cable, but that's not a big problem after all. And now let's get to the comfort. I will give you the best at first, and here my absolute highlight, the 569. Because first of all, they isolate quite nicely towards the outside, which is something that I personally like. I want it very quiet if I do my stuff. As I said already on the review, the memory foam and the padding is so nice and thick with the slow memory foam, especially on the top as well, and it holds, and it doesn't feel heavy at all. It doesn't have high clamping force. Just a joy to hold. They look subtle in my opinion with the all black, so this is definitely noticeably my number 1. Number 2 would already be the 559, which is a little bit odd because you would not maybe expect it, since it looks kind of similar to the 579 and 599, but you don't notice the top so much, the pressure here, because this is a lot thicker and a lot softer compared to the 599s, where it's still soft but just not as thick. So that's why I prefer it more, because of the headband. In terms of the cushioning here, actually the 599 is a little bit softer than the 559, but it's not a big difference. And at the end, for me, what is the important factor is how comfortable it is. And I think these are a little bit more comfortable than the other two, because, okay, yes, a little bit more clamping force, that is to be noticed, but other than that, they fit a little bit better. Now, place number 3 would be the 599, but with the only difference towards the 579 that the headband is not thicker, but just a little bit softer, and therefore they, for me, just sit a little bit more comfortable over a longer period of time. But it's a really marginal thing, because if I go to the 579, and I said that in that specific review already, you notice the headband just a little bit more, and otherwise the qualities are the same. So I've covered that. Now in terms of sound, I want to go here from number 4 to number 1. And number 4 is the 559. And I've already said that in my review that I'm not all that impressed by them. Why? The sound was very thick. The bass was so heavy, so thick, but not really detailed. The highs were quite clear, but just way too overflooded by the mids. And I just didn't like this sound so much. So I don't really want to go much further into that. I did not really enjoy them. And for 100, I think you can get better ones. Now, place number 3. That would be the 569. But if I say number 3 compared to number 2, the difference between the last 3 ones is quite close. And I needed hours and hours of side-by-side comparisons to actually notice the marginal differences. But once you have them side by side, it is noticeable. So what's to say about the sound of the 569? It's very similar to something like the 579 and 599. The main differences would be that the bass is not as tight, not as precise and punchy. Therefore, it is maybe a little bit deeper, a little bit thicker, but therefore the mids are, I would say, especially noticeable to the 579, a little bit thinner, a little bit weaker, and a little bit colder. The highs, therefore, are a little bit harsh. So a little bit more dominant highs than the already a little bit more dominant already highs on the 599 and 579. But the 569 manage a quite nice, pleasant sounding after all, because we have the slightly thicker, but in this case good thicker bass, but it's just not as punchy, and therefore the sound is a little bit colder. I still enjoyed this a lot, and if I wouldn't have had the other two, I would have been perfectly fine with that sound as well. But then you will notice the difference. Now, number 2, and you would expect to be that $599, but no, I think $579. No, but place number 2 is the $599. But that's personal preference, because why I give this one the number 2 instead of the number 1, even though it is the higher end model, is that the sound is not quite as warm. The punch is not quite as punchy. I like the harder, tighter precision on the 579, and the overall sounding was just more pleasant to listen to a longer side because it wasn't as flat. I like it a little bit sounded, and here the 579 did a better job, so that's why those get number 2. And yes, the winner, but I kind of already said that, the 579. Why? Because just in terms of sound, I feel it's such a nice, satisfying, pleasuring experience to hear on those, because you get a really amazing balance between slightly sounded but still accurate and definitely not overblown by anything, and the balance with the slightly warmer overall tone with the super nice, tight, punchy bass that is definitely not too heavy or boosted or something like that, with the highs that are dominant and a little bit more towards the higher end of the spectrum, but still not too harsh, but super nice and detailed, with the mids and the great clarity, and I really enjoyed those a lot. Now, here I want to give a few special mentionings. The 569, when it comes to versatility and value, because you get the extra cable with that you can use as a headset, you get the amazing comfort, and you still get a very, very good sound. And then my overall winner, after all, in terms of value when it comes to the sound, yes, maybe the least comfortable ones, but as I said, the comfort is still on a high level. I would have just wished the headband to be as at least soft as the 579, because the 579 kind of just managed to be less noticeable on the head. But as I already said, similar to what I've said on the 559, make the band maybe a little bit bigger, and then it's not a problem anymore. And it is, after all, the sounding for a price that is noticeably less compared to the 599 and just a little bit more compared towards the 569. You don't get the extra cable, but that's fine with me, and you can still buy that afterwards, should be no problem. So my personal favorite, 579. Kind of best maybe all around, or at least what you get for your money. And the 599, like I already said, still are great. I like them, and for the most audiophile listener, these could be the best ones, but you have to pay more. So maybe wait a little bit, and at the end, the ones that I did not really like that much, and the only ones I actually can't really recommend, the 559. I guess that would have been it. If I've missed something, or if you want to know some specific details about one or the other, like I said, watch the review, and if you still don't know then which you should go for, you can, of course, leave me anything down, questions and so on, in the comments down below. Otherwise, please thumbs up, maybe subscribe. And once again, since this is the last video, a huge final shout out to Cyberport, because they allowed me to review all 4 of them, along actually with something else, the Cloud Stinger, and I really enjoyed my time, because getting all 4 of these at the same time is the only way to actually know how good each one is and how they compare. If I would have had differences in time between reviewing them, it would have not been the same, because I needed the side-by-side comparisons for hours and hours to actually really properly judge which one has which differences. And that's where I want to leave it. I hope you liked it, and once again, I hope you have a nice day. Until next time, bye.